Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at what has to be one of the most stunning geopolitical U-turns we've seen in a while, and it's happening in the Indian Ocean.
Oh, absolutely. The Maldives.
Exactly. Our mission today is to figure out how they went from these really aggressive India out rallies to then, inviting India's prime minister as a guest of honor for their Independence Day next year.
It's a stunning pivot. And really, it's a classic clash between these big political promises and just crushing economic reality.
So if the stakes are that high, let's start with China's initial move. How did they get their foot in the door swiftly?
Well, the pivot away from India was immediate. I mean, we're talking about a massive 36-year military agreement. It was signed back in March 2024.
A 36-year deal, and it came with free military assistance, that's pretty rare, isn't it?
It's incredibly rare. And what's fascinating here is that Maldives, they aren't a military powerhouse. They have, maybe 5,000 personnel?
Right, they're tiny.
But their geography is absolutely vital. China is sort of adapting that old Cold War idea, the first island chain concept.
But flipping it on its head. Instead of containment, it's about projection.
Exactly. They're building their own chain of influence far out into the Indian Ocean. You can see it connecting the Maldives with allies like Pakistan and Sri Lanka.
So at the end of the day, this is all about securing supply lines, right? Yeah. Protecting those oil imports.
That's the core of it. They need ports, they need airspace, they need surveillance. The Maldives becomes this crucial pearl in their string of pearls strategy.
Which, from India's perspective, must look like encirclement.
A direct threat to their security and their trade. And, Western analysts are watching this very closely. Some even see it as China building buffers for a potential conflict over Taiwan.
Is that a widely held view or more of a worst-case scenario?
It's certainly the worst-case analysis, but the fact that military planners even have to consider it just shows you the stakes involved in that tiny island nation.
Okay, so you have this grand strategic play from China, but this is where the story takes a very sharp turn back to reality on the ground.
A very painful reality.
The political rhetoric worked for President Muzu at first. He got the Indian troops removed. He flew straight to Beijing and signed, 20 deals?
20 deals. It looked great on paper. But as we know, slogans don't fix economies.
And the financial collapse was immediate?
Immediate and alarming. I mean, the Maldives already owed Beijing over $1.4 billion. For a nation their size, that is a crushing burden.
Wow.
Then by mid-2024, their foreign reserves just plummeted down to about $440 million.
What does that translate to in real terms?
Enough money for 6 weeks of imports.
6 weeks? That is a terrifying position to be in. Moody's downgraded their credit rating.
They did. And their attempts to get fast cash from, say, the Gulf nations or Turkey, they were underwhelming.
And on top of all that, there was that social media storm, the Indian tourist boycott after those derogatory remarks from the deputy ministers.
Right. That alone cost them an estimated $150 million.
Right.
You're talking 50,000 fewer Indian tourists. The pain was immediate.
So they were completely backed into a corner. The tough truth was that only India could really step in.
It was the only option left.
So what did that reconciliation actually look like?
It started quietly. India extended a $50 million treasury bill in May and then again in September. Think of it like a short-term, low-risk loan.
Okay, just shoring things up.
Exactly. But the big move came after a state visit in October, a $400 million currency swap.
Which is basically an emergency cash injection to stop the free fall.
It was a lifeline. It stabilized their currency reserves. And then, the symbolic moves followed the money. The deputy ministers who caused all the chaos were removed.
Right.
And even a China-backed agriculture project got moved away from a site that was linked to previous Indian aid.
So when you put it all together, the big takeaway is that President Muzu is now framing that whole India out campaign as just optics.
He has to. They're trying this difficult balancing act. But simple financial necessity means they are right back in India's corner, just for survival.
This deep dive really shows that even in an age of major power competition, all that geopolitical posturing can just collapse when it runs up against basic financial reality.
It really does. And it leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? You have to ask yourself, what kind of political leverage is actually greater? The one based on massive long-term debt and slow cash flow? Or the one based on being the reliable first responder and immediate economic lifeline?